Well, David, we've got a good group on, and I think more will be coming as Katherine O'Neill is our superstar speaker today. So I will turn it over to you to get started, and you can introduce our guest for today.
Perfect. Well, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to see everyone's face and appreciate everyone being on our TATT chat for this month. And so excited to have Katherine O'Neill, who, as you can read, she is the Chief Economic Development Officer for OneSpartanburg, and the business that Katherine is in and the success that she has had, I've gotten to see on a really, probably a firsthand basis, just with the work that our Spartanburg office has been doing over the last 2.5 years that Katherine has been there. There's been a lot of neat announcements, and we all think that our county and our 10-county little group here, we all think our county is best. I know we all share a healthy hope for the entire upstate to do well, but deep down we live in one, and we probably pull for that. I will promise you, you do not want to get into a stats comparison on economic development with Katherine O'Neill if you're not from Spartanburg, because her county is beating your county. I am certain of that. And so, Katherine, I know you got some neat information for us. You guys have had just wild success when it comes to the economic development that has come. I think I saw a headline that said that the investment dollars in Spartanburg County last year was greater than a lot of countries' GDP. That's just bananas, and congratulations on your success. So I'll turn it over to you and look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Well, thank you, David. And as we all know, this is a team sport. David, we love working with the Colliers team in Spartanburg and all the other partners. I see a lot of our partners on this call: Troy, Hannah, Stinson, Ferguson, you and I. We have been partners in crime here, and how we're going to bring Spartanburg forward. So a lot of folks on this call I owe a thank you to, but I'm going to be mindful of the time, David, and I'm going to jump right into a discussion about Spartanburg. I'm going to try to work. Oh, and Mike Witt. How did I not call out Mike Witt for being a great partner as well here in Spartanburg? So thank you, Mike. So I'm going to jump into the presentation that I put together. Dean asked me to talk about some of the successes that we've had in Spartanburg, because I want to really focus on what's changing and why I think this may be changing for the upstate and really for the better for all of us. Certainly Spartanburg is seeing its share of the success. We're going to talk a little bit about the rideshare program that Spartanburg is piloting, and then a really important study that we're doing that I want to encourage all of you to consider for your community as well. So David, if that's good, that's my agenda, and I'm going to jump right in. So can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. There we go. So you may have to minimize, you guys know how this all works on Zoom calls. You may have to minimize your screen in order to see all of mine. But I wanted to talk about a couple of companies that we are very proud of in Spartanburg. I mean, BMW needs no introduction, but I want to kind of walk through how this fits into what I think is changing in Spartanburg and just give a little bit of a shout out for some of our successes. So in 2021, we're very proud that Spartanburg County and the city of Spartanburg in particular brought in $1.9 billion worth of investment. This is all corporate headquarter, industrial, which is manufacturing, logistics, those types of projects, some multifamily housing. And we had 4,045 jobs announced in Spartanburg. So wonderful year. I think a lot of that was pent up during the pandemic and came to fruition in 2021. We were working with a number of the companies that announced last year, starting late 2019 for some of them. TTI being one of those, Paul Corporation being another. In 2022, we just released our first quarter investor update. So since January, we've announced almost $660 million. We were just shy by a couple of dollars, and then 601 new jobs. since January. So let's talk a little bit about these companies. So of course, BMW, one of the things I really wanted to stress in talking about Spartanburg and the upstate is that in the automotive sector, I think we're seeing a real transition happening in the upstate to prepare for electric vehicles. Oshkosh Defense, they're a good example of that. When they came into the market, obviously they just received a multi-billion-dollar contract from the U.S. Postal Service to make the next generation Postal Service vehicle. They're based, if you're familiar with Flatwood Industrial Park on 221, kind of on the eastern side of the county. They're an OEM. They're a wonderful addition to the mix of automotive, advanced manufacturing, applied manufacturing in Spartanburg and the upstate. But again, we're starting to really feel that move to electric vehicles. So kind of stay tuned to that. I was part of the Upstate Alliance strategic planning meeting yesterday. Dean was there with me, and we were talking about just mobility in general and how that sector is evolving in the upstate. We also have a number of logistics projects. The two of them are on the screen here, Walmart and TTI. Walmart invested $450 million in Lyman at the Fort Prince Industrial Park, which is a new, relatively new industrial park for development. And although they're not your typical logistics project, this is their largest cold storage, automated cold storage distribution center. Super excited about working with them and going through the selection process, really understanding how they view the upstate, how they view Spartanburg, because it was all very positive. TTI, floor care in particular in Spartanburg, starting to see that influence from Charlotte into Spartanburg. You know, for so long, there was the Atlanta influence in the upstate. You had, you know, Atlanta looking at the Greenville-Spartanburg market for private equity and other investment. Now we're starting to see in Spartanburg and in the upstate a lot more private equity coming from outside of our local market, seeing it come from places like the Midwest, from Texas, and just really seeing a lot of new investment with new faces in Spartanburg when it comes to some of this large speculative industrial development. But again, that Charlotte feel coming into Spartanburg from the east. Oshkosh had no concern about locating on the eastern side of Spartanburg when it came to the labor pool. So that's good signs for the future, for sure. Also wanted to give a quick shout out to some of these life science companies that are starting to look a lot more in the upstate. Paul Corporation, a division of Danaher located outside of Duncan. If you're not familiar with Paul, they're one of the heroes during the COVID battle here. They were looking for a new location for the first time in 50 years outside of their existing campuses, largely in the Northeast and overseas. And, you know, it started out as finding, as David knows so well, looking for a particular building that would fit the dimensions of their clean rooms. They found that building in Spartanburg when they needed it. They were only going to lease. Now they've bought the entire campus. So we're thrilled to have Paul Corporation in Spartanburg and in the upstate. There's lots more to come from them. And Epica International, a really cool company that reached out to us during the pandemic. They were based in Southern California. They're an Italian company looking to move their headquarters to the East Coast. They do two things that are really cool in this life science space and applied manufacturing robotics. They have a division that does mobile CT scanners. If you've ever had a CT scan, typically you're wheeled to a room that is protected for the x-rays and such. With a mobile CT scanner, you can actually take that to the patient as opposed to taking the patient to it. So it's revolutionary. They have the patent on it. You can even put it in the back of an ambulance. Well, they're operating out of our Spark Center in Duncan right now. An amazing company. We absolutely love working with them. They also have a robotics division. Oh, by the way, Epica on that CT scanning and robotics, they're the company in Italy that does the sanding for Lamborghinis. and other sports models, Ferrari. And we're kind of hoping that they want to bring some of that sanding over to the Spartanburg area. But anyways, they're a pretty cool company. Their sanding is one of those types of sanders, very high precision, that can go underwater and into areas that humans can't go, but definitely precision sanding. So Epica and Paul bringing some of that, more of that highly technical life science jobs to Spartanburg. MP Cloud Technologies and Agape Care Group, two corporate headquarters that have relocated to downtown Spartanburg. MP Cloud Technologies out of Austin, Texas. Super excited about having them in downtown Spartanburg. They're currently housed in the Denny's building. They'll be at 150 employees by the end of this year, working their way to 450 to 500 employees within 5 years. They do software and billing services. And then Agape Care Group moved from in the county, in Spartanburg County, to downtown as the talent play. So lots of really cool stuff going on. Definitely a shift in the diversification of Spartanburg's economic development. Wanted to give a quick shout out, trying to be mindful of time. Y'all, I could talk about this all afternoon, but I'm gonna try to be mindful of time. I want to talk about a couple of projects that are going in Spartanburg. The top right-hand corner is an 83,000 square foot office project that is going in on Liberty Street. So if you're familiar with Liberty Street, behind the Marriott, adjacent to the George, this is a developer out of Charlotte who is putting in a very modern, urban, Class A office project. There'll be retail on the first floor, a rooftop bar on the top, and then at least 60,000 square feet of Class A office, probably heading up into that 80,000 square foot range as well, depending on how the pre-leasing goes. So stay tuned for more about that project. Right below that, so on the bottom right, you have the M. Peters Group development that's going on East Main Street. If you take a look, I don't know whether you can see my cursor or not, but this space here that's green is actually the freight yard. So forgive any artistic liberties that we're taking. This is a very active spot in Spartanburg, the freight yard, but they purchased the 8 buildings that were next door to the freight yard heading towards the Denny's building. They'll be preserving the retail here, retail spaces here on the first floor of this project. So trying to also restore some of these storefronts to the space while making Class A retail spaces behind that. What is, I think, pretty transformative about this project is, if you're familiar with Spartanburg, this is a very long block. It's a very deep block. They'll be adding alleyways from Main Street to Broad Street. In this project, there's 3 alleyways that'll give that good flow, open up a lot of space for retail to retail frontage, and then 3 towers here. So if you're thinking about how tall is this, I mean, this is to scale here in this image. So it's obviously not as tall as the Denny's building, but the tallest building in the middle, this building will be about as high as the AC Hotel just down the street. So total wrap up here on that project is about 30,000 square feet of Class A retail, about 20,000 square feet of Class A office, about 150 to 160 multifamily apartments, and at least 24 condos, primarily in that center structure. And on the lower left here in this, going clockwise around the screen, this is an image from Lat Purser's development, Lat Purser and Associates out of Charlotte. Their development at the corner of Kennedy Street and Union Street, that'll be 132 multifamily housing units, which is a bit of a story here for Spartanburg. When I started with OneSpartanburg, there were less than 500 multifamily housing units in downtown Spartanburg. Now we have about 2,200 that are either leasing up as we speak, or under construction or committed to the downtown space. So that's a big change in trying to get us moving towards that 24-hour, 7-day-a-week living experience in Spartanburg that can support more retail, commercial, office, and entertainment. So really an ecosystem there when it comes to development. And then the image at the very top here is just another example of that industrial spec that's going into Spartanburg. You know, I've heard, David, I've heard John Montgomery talk about this, and along the 85 corridor, really on the eastern part of the upstate, so think Spartanburg and Cherokee, there's over 10 million square feet of industrial spec coming out of the ground. Most of it is going to build to suit, which for anybody who's following that story, of course, we want speculative industrial buildings ready for companies in their whole speed to market mission to locate in Spartanburg. But what is unusual about the circumstance that we're in right now is that this spec, even before it's coming out of the ground, already has a tenant and it's being customized for that tenant, which I would say is unprecedented. That's what I've heard others say as well. But of that, about 10 million square feet, at least 75% of it is in Spartanburg, and that's just announced. We've got other projects that are talking about locating in Spartanburg with their spec industrial space. So I share all that to say that there's a lot going on between residential and industrial. There's a lot going on in Spartanburg right now, and really across the upstate. As I talk to my peers across the upstate, we're really feeling that move to the Sun Belt from the Midwest and from the North. And they're wanting to come here for quality of life, for affordability. Remote working has opened up a lot of opportunities where people can live wherever they want. And so they're choosing the upstate. It's a wonderful submarket of Atlanta and Charlotte. And most of the folks who are looking to really, as they come out of the pandemic, to change their living conditions, really want to come to a market like what we have. So with that, I'm going to quickly pivot to our Commute with Enterprise program. We have branded this particular rideshare program in Spartanburg as SWIFT. So it's Spartanburg Workforce Transportation. You see a picture of the car here to the right with this wrap on it to share with others and really advertise this program. Dean will tell you that I have talked about workforce transportation for a while. I think we all have. There's been some attempts, Mike, at United Way of the Piedmont to try to take reliable transportation off the table as a barrier for those who are trying to get into or stay in the workplace. And we hear it all the time, both from residents and from businesses, that there are plenty of individuals in the workplace who maybe one or two employees are relying on an unreliable vehicle, which takes a great employee and puts them into some challenges with disciplinary actions for tardiness or absenteeism. We want to take that off the table. So if you haven't talked with, or if you're interested in this, if you're a company that hasn't talked with Commute with Enterprise yet, I got to tell you, when you get together partners like who you see on the screen, which also includes the Mobility Alliance as well, the Upstate Mobility Alliance, we're all working together to try to solve for the cost of this workforce transportation. So the city of Spartanburg contributes to, with a grant towards utilization of these rideshare programs. United Way contributes, SC Works, Upstate Mobility Alliance, and OneSpartanburg Inc., and the employer, which gets it down to, in the case of Grace Management, I just heard that they've worked it out, that the captain of the rideshare, or the person who is in charge, they pay nothing for their transportation. And oh, by the way, they get to keep the vehicle for personal use. And then the other folks who ride in the rideshare are paying $20 a week. Some of these folks were paying way more than that a day for Uber or Lyft to try to get to the office. In fact, in the case of Grace Management, we heard two very personal stories. One of a gal who was is an incredible employee, but she was having trouble with transportation. and as a result was so often tardy and absent that her employment was in jeopardy. Once we got this in place for her, she's early to work, and she's also one of the leaders for the rideshare van pool. So she gets a vehicle that she gets to use personally as well. We also heard of another Grace Management employee who was walking 2 miles to work regardless of the weather. And he's now part of one of these ride shares. So great stories there. Milliken has signed up. We have a couple of other companies that are going to be announcing here shortly that they're on with Commute with Enterprise. Commute with Enterprise has really worked all the bugs out of this. They even work it out to where if you have to leave in an emergency from work, let's say your child is sick or you become ill, you need to go home, they'll pay for your Uber to go home or to go pick up your child. So they've worked through everything. They're in huge markets like Los Angeles. So great addition here to Spartanburg, and we're really proud of the success that we're having with it. The last thing I promised to talk with you guys about is a growth study. I just threw this up on the screen here to help tell you a little bit more about what we're doing. You know, we're not unlike any other community in the upstate right now. We're seeing unprecedented growth, and really wanted to try to get a handle on what that looked like in the future. There is no crystal ball that will tell you with absolute certainty what the future holds as far as growth or where it's going. But City Explained out of Charlotte is a group that Dean helped me connect with. I was particularly interested in picking up where 10 at the Top and other partners like Upstate Forever had gone with growth studies for the upstate and really target it in Spartanburg. So this summer, we're going to be taking a look at really what our inventory is and future growth potential, and then determining through the modeling that we will own. It'll be Spartanburg County and OneSpartanburg Inc. That will help us with being predictive of where the growth is going and then help us get out ahead of that with infrastructure. So a little bit about what the project deliverables are. We're going to have an opportunity to take a look at the data, where our growth drivers are, what some of the trend benders are, and what some of the future year conditions are. Then we're going to also take a look at what's happening in our community, where our partnerships are really succeeding, and see how that's driving growth in our community. We're going to build in and grow the Spartanburg County Comprehensive Plan. So this will help us meet several of the elements in that plan for them, and then give them a tool that they can use to further complete their plan. And then it's a great way to get us lined up to help for future year SPATS projects for transportation. This is just a little bit about how we got there, shaping our future in 2017. And really, Dean will tell you that I remember sitting when I first came to the upstate, shortly after I came as the county administrator for Spartanburg. I attended a session that 10 at the Top had put together that showed a North Carolina study of the upstate, and really understood at that moment that Spartanburg needed to really get its act together for preparing for the future, shaping our future. Just added to that, the city of Spartanburg just completed their comprehensive plan last year. They're in the process of approving it. This gives us a chance to get where we need to be for planning for the likely impacts and scenario planning in Spartanburg. And then, as you see, getting our SPATS and Spartanburg County Comprehensive Plan lined up. So just a little bit about where we are today. From this study, we're just shy of 330,000 people, about 126,000 dwelling units, although that number, as we're predicting the study will show, that number is escalating at an increasing rate. Employees that are in the workplace, about 150,000. And then just for us, in looking at retail, office, industrial, and institutional growth, and predicting where that growth should be for non-residential projects, this study will help us with that as well. And so we've had some discussion here about our population increase, the number of employees that we should be seeing, new dwelling units, and additional square footage. Where we are in the study right now is trying to determine where this may go. And in the summer, this is where this map that you see to the right will really help us with, as you can see, there's a real, and I've heard it described as a tenderloin, but certainly this 85 corridor is driving a lot of what we're seeing in the upstate. That's not new news, but really seeing how the east side of this corridor is building out in Spartanburg, and then starting to see really what's happening in Woodruff. If you haven't been to Woodruff, this is a good time to go check it out before it really takes off. When I talked to Lee Bailey here recently, he told me that they have 4,000 residential units in the pipeline for Woodruff. They expanded Woodruff through annexation to where they doubled the size of Woodruff. They've gone from 2,000 to 4,000 acres inside the city, which is remarkable in the state of South Carolina. But Woodruff isn't the only one that is seeing just remarkable, unprecedented growth. If you haven't been to Inman or Cowpens, they're starting to feel the growth that's coming towards them. In fact, just listening to some of the folks talk about the property values, we have some properties that are now selling for $60,000 an acre outside of Cowpens. And if you would have asked me 5 years ago to predict what the value of property would be outside of Cowpens, I can tell you I wouldn't have put a pinpoint on $60,000 an acre in 2022. So just a lot going on. I promised that I was going to rush through this. So I'd have a few minutes if possible to answer any questions, but that was a lot of ground to cover in a short period of time, Dean. So I'm happy to answer any questions, Dean or David. Just or you guys know how to find me. Most of you know me personally, so certainly you can reach out to me if you have any questions. I saw some show up in the chats.
Yes, I'll take care of those for you, Catherine. Couple really good questions. The first one, and this is something I know you hear often regarding infrastructure. You know, what is Spartanburg doing? And you touched on it with the study, but what are you all doing in the communication around you know, the infrastructure needs, certainly water, sewer, roads, but, you know, holistically, you know, that's an issue in all communities that are growing. What are some of the things y'all are doing to address that?
Sure, it's a great question, and one that we talk about often. So one thing that Spartanburg has had in its favor is that for industrial growth, because that's really been the story for Spartanburg for a long time, the infrastructure, a lot of the infrastructure, road infrastructure, was largely in place, although the county is now very focused on the area in the southwestern corridor of the county, which is where most of the growth is. They have issued a tremendous amount of money towards road widening and road improvements in that area. They're also focusing their ARPA money towards sewer, water, being very intentional of where especially the sewer expansions are going, right? If you build it, they will come. So making sure that they're working closely with their partners, largely SSSD and Spartanburg, in determining where to guide the growth. Many of you also participated who were in Spartanburg on this call, participated in the county's area performance planning that was done. That's performance-based zoning that is largely concentrated in the southwestern area of the county. That was designed to really drive the high intense developments onto the arterials, which is where the county is focusing on their infrastructure investments. So I'm telling you too that I'm working hard to get that multifamily engine going in downtown Spartanburg. You know, I asked, many of you know this, but Nancy Whitworth has joined our team after she retired from the city of Greenville. If you don't know Nancy, she was the former economic development director for the city for 40 years. So she was there before Greenville was cool. In fact, the reason why Greenville's cool is largely due to Nancy and the work that she did. I love working with her. She's super smart about all of this. But I asked Nancy, how many residential units, multifamily residential units are in downtown Greenville? So not Haywood, not out at Verde. I'm talking about downtown. She said about 9,000. So Spartanburg starting at about 500. We got a long way to go before we get to the concentration that Greenville has. But if you think about that multifamily housing concentration in downtown Spartanburg, really trying to peel off that sprawl from out in the county so that we can get, a lot of the single family houses that are going up towards Boiling Springs and other areas. A lot of them are first time home buyer, small tract builder kind of subdivisions. I've heard a lot of those have been purchased by investors. They're rentals now. That's our affordable housing. We're going to turn that tide, get them to where we get them into multifamily housing and try to concentrate that to our benefit. So lots of discussions around infrastructure, Dean, to make sure that not only are we trying to build up the infrastructure needs and get as far ahead of it as we can, but also to maintain affordability. I got to give a quick shout out. I know I'm over my time. So you guys knew this when you asked me to come, that I was going to go over my time because I can't stand it. There's so many things to tell you, but the city of Spartanburg, city council, and the team at the city of Spartanburg, I have got to give them a shout out. One of the things that they talked about with this growth is to make sure that there was affordable housing downtown. So all of the projects that we talked about earlier and more, they're all required as part of their development agreements with the city to provide at least 10%. Some of them are providing 20 and 25% workforce housing, some of them into affordable housing. So let's just roll some numbers out here. So workforce housing at 80% AMI. I see Lakeisha on this call. She knows all about what these numbers mean. 60% AMI affordable housing. So these projects are making sure that the folks who, work, so the nurses and the firefighters and the teachers and the servers for the downtown restaurants, they can afford to actually live downtown. This is super important to the city of Spartanburg City Council. I'm really proud of them. A lot of developers who are coming into the market from places like Tennessee and from Charlotte, North Carolina, Atlanta, are all really touting the fact that Spartanburg is being very progressive about making sure that there's affordable housing downtown for all walks of life. So that's also important for being inclusive to Spartanburg, which has always been one of our strengths that we're playing to.
Well, and thank you for that, Katherine. You're not overtime, you're fine. One of the things you hear a lot, and you and others talk about the numbers, the 1.9 billion and all the different stats, and it's very easy to dismiss it by saying, oh well, they're just in a great place, or they've got that already, factors that are to their advantage. What I love about your story and what you've articulated today is that you all have to continually work on whether it's the transportation issue or the different elements of affordable housing or infrastructure or whatever it is. Those are the ingredients that help make you all attractive for people coming in workforce, certainly. What is the one thing, and I know there's many of them, but as you look into the next 3 to 5 years, is there something that maybe has not been your hot button that you all have to be focusing on moving forward?
Absolutely. And we are focused on it. If you take a look at the OneSpartanburg Vision Plan 2.0, it's the educational attainment that we have got to focus on this. We can do all that we're doing with recruiting developers and private equity and investors and office product and commercial and retail and all of that into our area. But if we're going to truly diversify with corporate headquarters, life science, bioscience, professional services, all of that, and this goes for the entire upstate, not just Spartanburg, we're going to have to double down on our educational attainment. We ended up hiring 2 years ago a site consultant group called Atlas Insight. They're based out of New York. They're a wonderful site selection group. We asked them to come in as a consultant and have retained them to try to help us understand what companies who are truly going to raise the per capita income for communities like Spartanburg, like Greenville, like Anderson, Oconee, Pickens, Cherokee, Union, what is really going to raise the bar for per capita income and create wealth in our community, we must increase our educational attainment. We are thrilled to work with Dr. Makota at USC Upstate, as well as the other colleges and universities in Spartanburg. But I'm going to give a quick shout out to Dr. Makota because he took the funds that were coming to the college for COVID relief and turned it into free tuition, and immediately saw his numbers go up, saw those individuals who had started college. So we have almost 50,000 people in Spartanburg County who started a post-secondary education and never finished it. So we have an initiative underway called Unfinished Business, where we're trying to recruit those folks back to school so that they can finish, whether it's a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree, to go ahead and finish this business that they began. And we're seeing that come back when you solve for childcare, when you solve for transportation, when you solve for tuition, you start to see people making their way back to improve their education. That's going to be a big part of this, Dean, as we start to reach for those types of jobs that'll truly be really transformative for Spartanburg and the upstate.
And just to clarify, I know you probably didn't even notice, but Dr. Makota is with Spartanburg Community College as
Did I not say that?
USC Upstate.
I'm so sorry. I hope Dr. Makota
Harris is USC Upstate. Dr. Makota is Spartanburg Community College, just for others who may not know the players in Spartanburg, but Spartanburg has so many great educational places. So, well, Katherine, thank you so much. There are a couple other questions that are more specific in the chat. If you have a minute to maybe answer those directly, that would be awesome. I will, as a pitch and kind of moving into our next segment, we have our summit coming up on May 10th, and Katherine will be one of the speakers in our morning session. We're going to talk about per capita income and about sprawling growth and about education and all these different pieces. So Katherine, I just want to, again, thank you very much for being with us and for all that you have done. I think it's very telling. We have Andrea Cooper coming on in a few minutes, and she's going to talk about some of the land use things that they're doing with Upstate Forever. And I'm sure Andrea will echo me in saying that we are so thrilled that Spartanburg and you have taken the work that has been done and recognized that, comprehensive planning and working, together and doing modeling of your growth is really a critical element to make sure that you grow in a smart and comprehensive way. So congratulations and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you for inviting me today.
All right, well, with that, we will transition. Before I turn it over to Justine for our resource updates, I have a very quick introduction I want to make. Riley DeWeese is with us. She is a senior at Greenville High and is our intern for this year. Riley, if you would turn on your mic for a second maybe and tell.
Sure. Thanks, Dean. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really happy to be interning with 10 at the Top. Like Dean said, I'm a senior at Greenville High School this year, and I'm planning on studying political science at Clemson this fall. And I'm already so thankful, and I've already learned so much from my time at 10 at the Top. There's Dean. And I am just so grateful for all of the opportunities that I've already had and that I know are going to come from this internship. So thank you.
Welcome, Riley.
Thank you.
So I think Dean may be having a little technical difficulty. Justine, do you want to jump back in? And were you up next?
I am.
Okay.
I am up next, and I think he's going to sign back in. Yeah. All righty. So hey everybody, Justine Allen, 10 at the Top. Thank you very much, Riley. Riley is a delightful young woman who has been so helpful to us, and we try to give her some tasks that aren't just totally boring. Working on it. I have the honor today of introducing our 2 resource update speakers, and since we had Liz Seaman first on the agenda, we will start with Liz, and she'll talk about some of her many hats that she wears, one as Chief of Staff at Furman, and her civic duties as well. Liz, if you are ready.
Thanks, Justine. Although Andrea, man, it stinks going after Katherine because she was awesome. So, great job. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to talk a little bit about some fun things happening at Furman today. As Justine said, I have the honor of serving as Chief of Staff to President Davis, and I know many of you have had the opportunity to meet her. I've told this group before when we went through COVID, things at Furman, really proud of the way our faculty, staff, and students really all pivoted during that time. We ended up being a very highly vaccinated campus, which really helped us get back a little bit more towards normal, I think quicker than maybe some other places were. And, you know, as we are now heading towards the end of semester, life is much more, I think, what our students expected when they came to campus. But spring is definitely in full bloom. And we've had a couple of kind of exciting things happen this semester. Earlier in this semester, we celebrated Joseph Vaughn Day. Joseph Vaughn was our first African-American graduate from Furman, undergraduate student from Furman. And during that time, we had the pleasure of bestowing an honorary doctorate to Ms. Pearlie Harris, which was a fabulous occasion. And we look forward to our continued celebration of Joe Vaughn Day and our DEI efforts on campus. Furman also, along with the Southern Conference, was the co-host for the men's NCAA first and second round tournaments at the Well. And as you know, it's a huge honor for our community to be able to host that event, as well as the economic impact, over $10 million boosted into our economy over that weekend. Furman was featured prominently, and our staff worked diligently along with Beth Paul's staff at the Well over the course of that week and weekend to make the tournament a success. It also provided a really high impact experience for some of our students who had the chance to serve as volunteers with some of behind the scenes duties, but a really fun weekend for Greenville and certainly for Furman. Although, you know, we were one shot away from our men's team participating in the tournament themselves. And it was a last minute long shot dagger, but we look forward to the opportunity next year to maybe see if our guys, men and women, can win the SoCon and move forward as well. We just had yesterday, or this week, I guess, Tuesday, an event called Furman Engaged. You know, one of the things about the Furman experience is the opportunity to grow and learn and have these high impact experiences, whether it's undergraduate research or your internship or special semester long projects. And every year we highlight all of those things. We had 700 students on Tuesday participate all across campus. They were showcasing their talents, whether that was in art or music, talking about their internship experience, talking about their research. I'll tell you, the future looks really good. I know all of our higher ed institutions in the upstate area are very strong, and I'm sure that if you've had a chance to be around college students these days, walking through the poster sessions of some of the research, I had no idea, even reading the titles of what some of their research was, I had no idea what they were talking about. I mean, really super smart students, and it just makes me hopeful for the future. I know that we will, you know, perhaps have the next Nobel Prize winner, or the one who solves the cancer issue, or some other fabulous research opportunity. But it was a really fun experience on campus, and again, a chance for our students to showcase their work. And so that was really fun. We are getting ready towards the last day of class, which is April 26th, and then we'll head into finals week and then graduation. Also wanted to highlight for you some fun things happening through our institutes. I know many of you are familiar with our Shy Center for Sustainable Communities. Two kind of neat things that they've been working on in collaboration with the community is they've worked with the city of Greenville to help produce the city's first sustainability plan. And Furman and the Shy Center are also one of the sponsors of the BMW Pro-Am tournament, focusing on the tournament's desire to be a sustainable event. And so we're excited to be a part of that and showcase some of the talents of our faculty and others through the Shy Institute. Of course, I know you all are familiar with the Riley Institute, and we continue to educate leaders not only in the upstate, but throughout the state through our Diversity Leaders Initiative. Our Institute for the Advancement of Community Health has hosted several summits this semester, but also is home to our Medical Legal Partnership. It's a collaboration with South Carolina Legal Services. It's the only one of its kind in an undergraduate institution in South Carolina. And it really helps to coordinate and streamline access to non-medical assistance for folks who are mainly in poverty, but have a legal issue that's causing some healthcare issues. And I encourage you to check out the work of the MLP and our Institute for the Advancement of Community Health from that perspective. Of course, our newest institute is the Hill Institute for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And you've probably seen a lot about the work of the Hill Institute recently. Of course, we have just launched Greenville Starts, a program for community members looking to turn their dreams into ideas. And probably one of the most exciting things happening to Furman is the location and the opening of our new Furman 101 space in downtown Greenville. We're across the lobby from Methodical Coffee. And not only is this going to be sort of the secondary home for the Hill Institute, but it will be a space for faculty, staff, and students to come and study, to teach class, but it's also a space for the community. Whether you want to host events or meetings there, we welcome folks to come take a look. We've got the most up-to-date technology, and it's super cool space right in downtown Greenville. And just another way that we're trying to continue to establish places in Greenville where Furman seems more connected than up on the hill there off of Poinsett Highway. Of course, we have our partnership with the Greenville Drive at Fluor Field. We also have a partnership with M. Judson, as well as the Upcountry History Museum. So, Furman continues to be engaged throughout the community, whether as an institution itself or through the work of our faculty, our staff, and our students. And just we continue to look for opportunities. And if you all are in need of students for internships or research projects, please let me know, because they are fabulous and we'd be happy to get you connected. Thanks, Justine.
I have so many things I want to say now, but it's not really my time to speak. So thank you very much. We're excited, and I'm sure that meeting space downtown will be hitting you up for that soon. Okay, let's hear from Andrea Cooper, Executive Director of Upstate Forever, one of my favorite upstate organizations doing such great work. Thanks. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you so much. I think there are going to be some slides that are supposed to come up. Here we go.
Here we go.
All right. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, super. Great. I'm Andrea Cooper, Executive Director of Upstate Forever. Thanks so much for having me today. Next slide. The mission statement, if you could go back a second to the last slide, I'm sorry, the previous slide. There we go. All right, Upstate Forever is a nonprofit conservation organization that protects the critical lands, waters, and unique character of the upstate. Our service area covers the 10 upstate counties, and improving water quality is the main driver of our work. We were founded in 1998, and we're looking forward to celebrating our 25th anniversary next year. And next slide, please. These are our 4 main program areas. We work with landowners who want to permanently protect their land with conservation easements. And we also advocate for better land planning policies to reduce sprawl. Additionally, we work at the local and state level on policies to protect our natural resources. Next slide, please. This is called our scary map, very technical map name, but why our work is so important. The upstate's population is growing rapidly, and you heard all the great work that Katherine is doing In 2015, it was projected that by 2040, we will welcome more than 320,000 new residents to the region. And that is certainly a conservative estimate. In Greenville County alone, more than 220,000 new residents are expected. And Greenville's population size is already that of Mecklenburg County, which of course is Charlotte, approximately 30 years ago. So we're on track to be the next Charlotte. And so the issue is not really the amount of people moving to the region, it's the way we're accommodating them. By 2040, we'll more than double our development footprint in the upstate. The major contributor to this sort of dispersed development is where and how we build new neighborhoods, such as building out instead of building up where it makes sense. So Upstate Forever's working to turn the tide of sprawl through land conservation and land policy work. Next slide, please. I was asked to share some of our work focused in Greenville, and I'm excited to let you know about a recently funded Greenville County Historic and Natural Resource Trust. As you saw on the map in the previous slide, the time is now to permanently protect our most iconic and special places while there's time. The trust works with established organizations to fund projects to ensure areas are protected for generations to come, with funding priorities that protect Greenville County's most iconic natural places, especially those that expand outdoor recreation opportunities for the public. The funding priorities also include safeguarding and improving water quality by protecting the most critical watershed lands, and preserving prime farmland to maintain rural character, promote agritourism, and ensure continued ready access to local food. The trust leverages local dollars, which is, I think, a very important thing to stress. It leverages local dollars to attract state and federal support for conservation, resulting in a bigger impact. The trust was funded last summer at $2 million, $1 million in each budget year for 2022 and 23, which is a great start. However, a coalition of businesses and individuals called Greenville for Green Space has been formed with the goal to secure additional funding for the trust. And if you'd like to join this coalition, which we welcome you and invite you to, the website is listed on the slide. You can just look up Greenville for Green Space and you'll see it. Next slide, please. Greenville County UDO. In early 2020, County Council unanimously adopted a widely supported comprehensive plan that envisions protecting natural assets while accommodating growth by directing most new development to the county center where infrastructure can support it. To help realize this vision, Greenville County is drafting a new Unified Development Ordinance, UDO, to replace existing zoning and land development regulations. The new UDO should enact the community's future vision by allowing higher density development in already urbanized areas and limiting development intensity in rural, undeveloped areas with remaining forests and farmlands. We're also advocating that the new UDO strengthens requirements to better protect tree canopy, riparian buffers, which is waterways, and open space. We anticipate a new UDO being adopted by the end of this year or early next. Next slide, please. Wait, hold on. The slides are
Sorry, I'm also
a little out of order.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. I can share my screen if you like, but that is my, okay, this is, UDO is the last one, and then City of Greenville Development Code is the current one, so that's fine. If you could just stick on this slide, that would be great. All right. The City of Greenville also recently adopted a comp plan, Greenville 2040, and is now in the process of overhauling existing zoning and land development regulations. The new code must ensure a new way of growing that is more urban and less suburban, directing most future growth to nodes and corridors through traditional higher density urban development. We're advocating that the new code ensure ample urban green space, complete streets to safely support many travel modes, and diverse housing types, such as taller buildings on major roads and house scale buildings like duplexes, triplexes, and accessory dwelling units in walkable neighborhoods. That's referred to as middle missing housing. We anticipate the new draft code to be released in late summer, early fall of this year and adopted in early 2023. Next slide, please. Okay, back to this one. There are many ways to get involved in our work, and you've had time now to see this slide quite a bit. But a great place to start, if you're interested in land planning and policy work, is to subscribe to our e-newsletter, Greenville County Land Planning and Policy Issues. We also have one for Spartanburg for updates and calls to action. Next slide, please. If you'd like to take a deeper dive into these issues, we provided a blog to 10 at the top to share with you. And thank you so much for your time. That concludes my presentation. I know that was a lot of information in only 5 minutes, but I appreciate your interest.
We do our research updates to really pack a lot into a very short period of time. So thanks for being with us. And Dean, unless you have any further announcements, I can pass it back to our board chair, Mr. Field.
Yep, we can go back to David. Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'll be happy to close this out and maybe give everybody a couple of minutes back to their afternoon. I want to thank Liz. I want to thank Andrea. Andrea, the best test of whether you know your material or not is if we could scramble up your presentation and give it to you with the surprise effect. So you passed. You did great. We appreciate you both. And also thanks to Katherine for sharing what's going on in Spartanburg County and for her leadership in that role. So. I hope everyone has a fantastic Easter this weekend. I hope everyone is safe, and I look forward to seeing you guys at our next TAT Chat. Dean, do you know the next date off the top of your head?
It is May 12th, and we're actually going to look at food insecurity, and Mary Hipp will be with us, and then we're working on another speaker, but our topic will be food insecurity.
Okay, great. We'll see everyone at the summit on the 10th, and hope everyone again has a great weekend.